All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Alice, and I am super happy today to be with you for just 20 minutes and amazing speakers as well. I am with three main actors of the tech ecosystem in Europe and talking about Catherine, Maurizio, and Kat. And together for just 20 minutes, we'll be discussing about how it's been for them within the last 6 months and where do they want to go, since they have understood a lot of things with the change in the situation through the crisis accompanying startups. So they will have different point of view to share with you. You have the French, the German, and the Italian point of view. Just to give you a little thing about who I am. I'm not a journalist. I'm not usually a moderator. I'm the CEO of the family, and the family accompanies startups all over Europe. We've been doing it for 8 years through education, tools, and access to capital. And all along my journey, I've been happy actually to be working with Kat, with Maurizio, and sometimes as well with Catherine in Berlin. So maybe we could start by a presentation, like who does what from where. Catherine, Kat, maybe you want to start?
Catherine, sure, I'll jump right in. My name is Catherine Bischoff, and I'm from Factory Berlin, based in Berlin, obviously here in Germany. Our whole purpose and role is to curate the largest ecosystem of innovators and creators in the country. That means we bring together, we're almost 4,000 individuals and startups, founders, investors, and students, talents, essentially to make up this great pool of talent. And we have 2 locations and run different programs, events, and essentially have a holistic view of what's happening with the mission of bringing early stage founders to the next area of opportunity. And I'm really excited to be here in this conversation too.
Great, welcome. Kat?
Sure. Hi. So my name is Kat Borlongan, and I lead the French Tech Mission, which is a very special team inside the Macron administration, so it's government. We have a pretty simple goal. It's to make sure that France is able to churn out a good, 25 unicorns by 2025. The president himself set that bar. To do so, we have a very specific arsenal. We have funding, of course, 1.3 billion every year, an extra 4.3 billion since the crisis. Programs, everything from programs for diversity to programs for late stage startups. We also do quite a bit of community building and communication, both in France and abroad. And we're supported by 114 communities, French tech communities all across the world.
Thank you, Kat. And Maurizio?
Good morning. My name is Maurizio Rossi. I'm an entrepreneur since 30 plus years. That makes me not more younger. And I'm a co-founder. My latest experience is by the past 15 years, I'm a co-founder of H-Farm that you know. And H-Farm today, after a long path of evolution, it's basically, it's an context, it's an environment that aims to merge the next generations to become the first generation of entrepreneurs of the 21st century. So we combine educations at all full range, from kids 5 years old to post-university, with the business. So the business, that means bringing the ecosystem of startups into the corporations or supporting them independently go to the market.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is who you are. And now let's be straightforward. How are you right now? What is your state of mind regarding the startup ecosystem that you are taking care of right now? I mean, since COVID started, what has been your state of mind? How do you feel? Maybe Catherine, you can start.
Sure. Well, when I check in with the community, I look around our spaces, I check the communication channels and talk to the founders. I feel like there's obviously a huge sense of urgency. People are nervous, that they sense the pressure, but there's also incredible enthusiasm. And so when I think of our purpose, which is to bring community together and create a value set and create a trusted network, with these early stage startups and bringing talent pool into the network, we've never been busier than before. So we're really focused on helping where we can. And those that are failing and that will not make it through this crisis, we want to help them and help them either pivot their idea or get their talent into other startups, because there's a lot of startups that are scaling now that are doing incredibly well and are accelerating their growth. And we need to help them as well by funneling the talent from one pool to the next. So I think there's incredible enthusiasm there, and we can't put our heads in the sand. So we need to really look forward and accelerate.
Great. Focusing on accelerating. And you, Maurizio?
Well, as you can imagine, jumping to the lockdown through thousands of people in between, school kids to organize online lessons and business and deals with corporations and startup. And on top of all this, we've been in the completion of the main compound that's enlarging on 50 hectares. So you can imagine there was a challenge in the challenge. But I have to say that usually when you jump into such a situation, you always can find a way, in a faster way that usually you can do it. So all delivery projects has been on their way, because be very confident with the technologies, managing the smart working. The online school was very easy for us because all classes already doing with the VR stuff, and a lot of, people is very confident with those tools. So I would say we've been able to catch up pretty well. We've been also in the middle of a fundraising to boost the education stuff, and we are almost closed it also this aspect. So I would say that it was a special year, but a year that show and we learned that we can do much more than what we do in a regular everyday life.
Thank you, Maurizio. And you, Kat?
Yeah, so I guess when the crisis first hit, we were just so focused on stopping the hemorrhaging. So the French government, France was the first country to announce an emergency support plan specifically for startups. We announced it 1 week after the lockdown was announced. It was 4.3 billion, which we started rolling out immediately. And that's kind of crazy when you're talking about anywhere from 10,000 to 15,000 companies. So from a regulatory standpoint, we also really needed to move super fast to be able to enable, a lot of things that were blocked in the past regarding remote healthcare or cybersecurity or online learning. And so those were kind of like very short-term priorities in the beginning. And now we're kind of in the rebound phase. And I have to say, I'm like so super optimistic. So far, the numbers are holding up, which is a pretty wonderful surprise. Last trimester alone, the French tech ecosystem as a whole raised roughly 928 million. So just to give you an idea, that's like 8.5% up from exactly the same month last year. Whereas I think in the UK and Germany, the numbers respectively fell by 9% or 20%. But I'll let Catherine and Maurizio tell me if my numbers are a little bit off. We also had a recent streak of mega rounds, which is amazing. We had Miracle raised 300 million euros, Insect at 372 million euros, Content Square at 190 million. So those are really, really good signs for the ecosystem. But I think overall, other than numbers aside, what has been really wonderful is seeing how the ecosystem really pulled together, and a lot of founders were there to really stick up for each other and help each other, whether it was to go through a really bad patch when they were managing cash flow, or to sort of just be there for them when they had to sort of shut down their companies, help them find solutions. And so that's something that we hope will stay, and we're very happy to have.
Okay, thank you all for this straightforward answer and quick answer. Maybe you could now tell me, if you had to take one step back, okay, because I know you've been in the emergency, but if you have to take one step back and give me some lessons learned out of this crisis, what would it be? Maurizio, maybe you want to start?
Yeah, that's I think the lessons or the evidence, it's an entrepreneurial approach. I believe that you cannot approach an emergency where things come so fast and you don't know about that, and you need to find solutions every minute. And when you find a solution, maybe it doesn't work and you need to fix it again. This startup. I think it's typical of a startup life. It's the approach for such a situations, because we jump into something that honestly that was totally unexpected in the middle of an evolution that it was a new plan for us. So learning what we've been doing through our path, it was already a challenge. It was already, learning by doing new things. And you jump into this situation where everything get more extreme, you need to get an answer. You try to combine it with all these things. It's typical like a startup everyday life. So our attitude, because we've been startup of ourselves and we've been to the startup ecosystem, it took us in having confidence for this. So it's more a confirmation. It's not much a lesson that you learn, but it's more like something that proves that a startup is a mindset that is good for the future,
I get it. Thank you. And Kat, the main lessons learned from this crisis right now?
I'd have to say it's ask for help early. Again, I'm speaking from a government standpoint, and we were completely overwhelmed. We're used to working with companies because they're growing pretty quickly, and you have sort of startups that are handled as almost a very sort of special mission inside the government. But now we were looking at companies that were taking hard hits in tourism and mobility. We're looking at companies that were doing really well in healthcare and skyrocketing when it came to distance learning. We were looking at companies who had employees who were foreigners and in France and had a hard time renewing their residence permits during the lockdown and didn't know what was going to happen. People who had operations sort of stop, at an industrial level and things like that. And I think it's the first time that my team actually fully realized, and I know this sounds kind of crazy, but that startups are first and foremost part of the rest of the country. They're part of the rest of the economy. And so if you really need the help of lots of different people specialized in different things to keep things moving forward. And the earlier you ask for help, the more likely it'll work out. And then, of course, I think, this is something I think a lot of us are still learning right now, but really like the art of teamwork. It's more than just a spirit. It's actually like a particular type of craft that you need to be able to set up very quickly, especially when you're working with different organizations with so many different cultures, and you need to move really, really fast.
Thank you. And just before I'm asking you the question, Catherine, I'm just realizing while listening to you that actually this crisis, in a way, fragmented a little bit more in the sense that we had to count on our local environment. We had to count on our own countries and ways of reacting to the crisis. We're not talking here about Europe, actually. We're talking about the reaction of France, of Italy, and of Germany. But in the meantime, what we've been realizing through this crisis is the importance of infrastructure. The importance of hospitals, of grocery stores, etc. And this infrastructure has been, I think, in a way, showing us the importance of being able to count on each other and to invest in this infrastructure as well. And for the entrepreneurial world, that's important, and for the European sovereignty in a way as well. There is a direct link here, and it makes it even more important. It's just a thought I wanted to share with you. Catherine, and you.
No, it's great. And I think that is the force of the European model at the end of the day. We do have these stable economies and stable political frameworks, at least the three that we represent here. And I think that's definitely helped us through this time. Us as an entity, we're a private company. We have a subscription model. We were, of course, very concerned about attrition and the uncertainty in the landscape and how that would impact our business short and long term. But we noticed that the value of community and the fact that people were so helpful for each other actually helped us grow. So we grew in this time as an organization as well. And there are three things, if I say my takeaways are: communication is key. So communication to and with the community to understand, what government support is out there for them? How can individual startups help each other? What are the tools that help navigate through this disruption? The second one is definitely team adaptation. For us as an operating model, we needed the teams to be super agile. As Kat mentioned, people are doing things they weren't doing before. These roles are changing on a weekly basis. We even moved physically into a smaller office so we could accommodate growth from a scale up in our community. And then the third thing, as everyone else, I'm assuming as well, leveraging tech, like the importance of having a good tech stack or adapting to identifying what the good tech tools are for you to get through this, regardless if you're doing remote work or not. We all went online with a lot of our programming, at least hybrid. And so you have to be on top of those tools to understand how to keep people engaged, what activities you're going to do, and how are people going to be accountable for their business.
Great. Okay, and one last question, and you will just have 1 minute to answer this question. This last question is twofold. Your focus within the next month, because time is shortening, and your focus within the next 6 months. Kat, you start.
Sure. I mean, that's pretty easy. Next month, we'll be recruiting our next cohort of what we call the French Tech 120 companies. So these are the all of France's late stage companies with the highest prospects for global growth. We select them based on purely quantitative criteria: funding raised, year-on-year growth, total revenue, and they access a program quite unique to the French government, where they have over 50 different ministries, administrations that kind of roll out the red carpet for them. They get fast track processes. Last year, we sent them to Davos with the president. They go on the official delegations of the president to do, all of their sort of biz dev, regulatory sandboxes, using embassies to do biz dev, that sort of thing. So that's short term, because we'll be opening applications quite soon. And then long term, what I'm really excited about and what I think about a lot is maybe a little less this current generation of startups, but a little bit more the next one, because we can see a lot of creation right now. There's so many opportunities, and it's so important to us that the new generation of startups don't look like the one that we had before. And what I mean by that is that they're more diverse, so they care more about the planet, that they come from all across France and not just Paris. So these are things that we're investing in quite significantly, whether it's through programs, through funding, or even through public policy.
Great. Thank you, Kat. Catherine?
Also deepening our program, and next month we continue to run 2 programs that we have. One is called Stealth Mode, which is for female and female identifying founders, helping bring them from idea to MVP with the support of experts from the Berlin ecosystem and access to investors and VCs, and real deep face time with them to really give them the support they need to move their idea forward. And then the second program is our Artist in Residence program, which is at the intersection of technology and society, where it goes about discovery and exploration, showcasing kind of innovation and problem solving through creative tools and that collaboration. So that's immediately. And then the next 6 months, definitely expanding our reach across the country. We're seeing growth and demand and a rise for a community and values-driven concept like the one that we have. And also providing that access to Berlin, the Berlin talent pool, and the Berlin capital ecosystem investments, essentially.
Perfect. Thank you. And you, Maurizio?
So this next coming month is going to be put a lot of focus to see what's going on with the COVID, because you can imagine we have 4 restaurants, we have dorms, we have all the school, the kids, we have all these stuff around. We learn from how to be faster and reduce the impact, because we don't know what it could be, all the initiatives from the government, some restrictions. That's not clear. So this is for this coming month. The plan we have is a 4 years plan. So it's on its way. So the next 6 months is going to be part of that. This plan, it's first of all, by the next couple of years, is going to full deploy the operations, extending more universities, more enlarging the business, let's say more or less double the size, the capacity, the volume, the business, and everything. And then it's expanding this model possibly abroad. And that's the plan. And COVID permitting or any other situation,
Great. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for sharing your mood, your plan, and your ideas about how to overcome this crisis. And on my side as well, I'm super happy to tell you that the family has switched fully on a remote mode and will be able to accompany not only European founders, but founders from anywhere joining our 6 weeks program, so they can learn how to build ambitious companies and raise funds with investors from all over the world. And I see this as an opportunity since the crisis. It's actually that investors now are not just blocked by their geolocalization, but they have been investing after Zoom calls. And we are all gathered today in a Zoom call. And I guess that's the proof that we'll be moving forward, even though it's not the most pleasing way, because we would love to be together, but there are a lot of opportunities in this change. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you.
Thanks.